Thưa quý vị và các anh chị, sự thay đổi nhanh chóng của ngành đầu tư thì đòi hỏi các chuyên gia phải thích ứng và đón nhận những thách thức và cơ hội mới để thành công trong sự nghiệp. Trong một báo cáo về tương lai của ngành đầu tư được công bố gần đây, thì các chuyên gia của Viện CFA Hoa Kỳ đã nghiên cứu về sự thay đổi vai trò, kỹ năng và nghề nghiệp cũng như là lộ trình phát triển chuyên môn của các chuyên gia phân tích đầu tư trong 5 đến 10 năm tới. Và tiếp theo sau đây thì xin được trân trọng kính mời ông Richard McGillivray, giám đốc cấp cao Viện CFA Hoa Kỳ khu vực châu Á Thái Bình Dương sẽ chia sẻ về những thông tin cụ thể hơn về nghề nghiệp phân tích đầu tư tài chính, những xu hướng và triển vọng toàn cầu. Xin trân trọng kính mời ông.
Investment practice, so different areas of investing and investments that relate to the capital markets and in some cases the private markets. And then what are the primary investment roles that we are talking about as an international community of practitioners? So to begin with, and many of these Sir spoke to earlier, the real estate market, for example, in Vietnam, the securities market, foreign currency, the fixed income with bond growth. So you see all of those key investment practice areas starting to develop in Vietnam with the core capital markets and then additional investment practices around those core investment markets. Now that category at the bottom, other, refers to smaller areas of practice that we will touch on in some areas later on. But that is the list of international investment practice areas, if you like. So investment professionals work typically in those areas. And all of those areas generate the following investment roles. So we have portfolio managers, people who organize portfolios of assets, research analysts and investment analysts, one of the key focuses of our conversation today. We have consultants, corporate financial analysts, risk analysts and risk managers. And then, of course, you've got, as you see in Vietnam, you have now 3 million people with investment accounts, increasing their opportunities for financial advisors and financial planners or wealth managers to support people in their long-term saving and investment goals. You have traders, you have eventually managers of managers, so people who organize groups of portfolio managers, sales agents who execute trades, investment strategists who help businesses think about their wider investment strategies. You have fund accountants and auditors who look at collective portfolios and how those report on their performance. And then, of course, in a B2B space, you also have relationship managers and account managers. These are people who support the investment objectives of companies. So that is what the global landscape looks like, okay, in the traditional investment management world. So we're talking about research analysts today, but it's important to understand that there are all these other roles and they all relate to various aspects of investment practice. Now, the other thing to remember is that the investment management industry is very, very dynamic. Okay, so it's changing all the time. And I think that just one example, if we think about the growth, all right, as Ms. Mui mentioned, there's a 30% increase in demand for finance professionals in Vietnam. So that's just an industry that is growing rapidly. If you look at the performance of the capital markets that Sir referred to, massive and rapid capitalization, again, bringing demand for investment professionals. So that's happening inside Vietnam, but of course it's happening around Vietnam too in the global market. So it is a very, very dynamic and changing industry. And with that dynamic and changing industry comes opportunity. So we want to talk very briefly about what that opportunity looks like. Now this is a report. These are figures from Mercer. And what they're saying in 2017, by their detailed estimate, worldwide, there were about 1 million people working as core in those core investment roles that we spoke about earlier. And you can see that they anticipate a 10-year growth period, and we're in the middle of that growth period now, or we're at the start of that growth period, if you like, where you're going to see 1.5% of compound annual growth in the number of people that are needed for the investment management industry. Now, I think that that reflects growth generally, but if you look at the numbers in the slide in front of you, you will notice that the growth in Asia Pacific is much closer to 2% compound annual growth. So in actual fact, there's a significant growth demand in Asia, and that is reflected in countries like Vietnam, where you have rapid capital market development and very significant size countries. So our message is this is a growing industry, there's opportunity, but most of the growth and opportunity in terms of roles and job opportunities are to be found in Asia Pacific if you look at this industry globally. Now, we wanted to talk just very briefly about, and this comes from a research study of ours. So you can see there that 56% of investment professionals interviewed for this research report, and that is the future of the finance professional that was showing on a video earlier, that 56% of senior leaders expected the number of investment professionals in Asia to grow significantly. And it is the only region where the majority of investment leaders expect headcount growth. So I think that that links very closely to what Ms. Moy was saying and what Sir was talking about with respect to the growth of the Vietnam industry, if you like. So that's common to the region. Now, the other figure on the slide here is that there is a very strong interest in the global market in diversity. So what diversity is saying is that the teams of investment professionals perform best when they are diverse in their thinking and in their origins. So in the global world, there's a strong interest in investment teams having people from all over the world. People with diverse backgrounds and diverse perspectives. So not only is there demand for growth in the region, there's also a demand for diversity in the region. So that means that there are not only domestic opportunities in Vietnam, but there are also regional opportunities for Vietnamese investment professionals. So those are 2 points that I want to touch on. There's growth, but there's also interest in diversity. So I think that's a critical point to make from a global and regional perspective. The other issue is that change has specific areas of focus. We're going to talk about sustainability, and Sir mentioned the improvement in corporate governance in Vietnam, and that is a key factor that we see as a global and regional shift as we talk about a dynamic industry, that there is a very significant focus on not only what people are investing in, but what people who are investing can do to change the behaviors of companies so that they act in a way that is beneficial for the wider societies that they operate in. So there's a strong sense of change and growth and stewardship. So that's action by asset owners, if you like, or by shareholders, if you like. And then this is all part of the massive growth in demand for sustainability skills. And I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about that later on in this presentation as well. Finally, and there were several mentions made, and if I go back to what Sir was saying, that the core of the key competencies, financial statements analysis, professional skills, and what are those skills, and then experience. And what we can see from this slide is that there is a very, very strong demand in the area of investment professionals for an understanding of technology, and in several forms of that application. what is called trust technology. In other words, can people access capital markets in a way that that they have confidence in? And a lot of that relates to cybersecurity and the quality of the customer interface. So what I want to remind people of as we start this conversation is that if you're entering this profession, you need the core skills for those core roles, but you also need to be learning additional skills or bringing additional skills into this industry. So I think that's a strong message that Ms. Moy touched on. Now, if we have a look at what, and this again comes from our investment professionals of the future, if we have a look at our members globally, and we have 170,000 CFA members globally, and if we ask them, and you can see the breakdowns of those different core investment roles on the side, if we ask people, are you doing work that you're very familiar with, or are you doing work that is new to you? You can see in some instances that, and if we look at just the, if we look at a research analyst that's second from the bottom there, research analysts are familiar with about 60% of the work they're doing. And just under 40% of their work is new to them. So you can see again, the importance of those core industry skills, but also the new skills coming in. And you can see the effect that those new skills have on all of the professional and specialist industry roles. Moving on, if we, and this was touched on in the investment professional of the future, what we are giving people guidance on here is to think about skills in different ways, depending on where they are in their career. So if you are an early career person, and I think that many of the people on the call today are in the early stages of their careers, what we want to say is that your technical skills are critically important. So the CFA program, which we will talk about, offers those technical investment management skills. However, your soft skills are also very important. Okay, so that's your ability to interact, communicate, work with other people as part of a team. Your leadership skills, Sir again mentioned the importance of independence in decision-making in the investment industry. So in other words, not just following what everyone else does. So for you to have that independence requires leadership skills. And then finally, T-shaped skills. Now what T-shaped skills are the ability to connect your technical skills to other skills. So for example, we might see technology as being a key area of T-shaped skills for investment analysts. So early on in your career, you need to really focus on those technical skills. As your career progresses to later on in your career, so the soft skills, the leadership skills, and the T-shaped skills start to become more and more important. But underlying it, you can see the foundation, if you like, is strong technical skills. Now, this was just an example of the different things that, that investment professionals are currently learning. And this was just trying to illustrate. So once you've got those technical skills, these are some areas that one wants to develop around them. Soft skills, communication, we touched on, are very important. Alternative investments, so these are for more mature capital markets. Portfolio risk optimization. There's a lot of work there in data and data interpretation. And I want to focus very much on sustainability and ESG in the middle there. Okay, so these are kind of areas of critical skills. Now, talking about the area of sustainability, this is an article from the Financial Times on the 17th of June, so it's very recent, saying that PwC is planning to add 100,000 staff globally into its ESG consultancy services. So when I say that ESG, so that's sustainability, that focuses on environmental, social, and governance, is a massively growing area for this industry globally. You can see that showing up in a recent statement from just one firm, and that's from PwC. So that's how dynamic this industry is. When we did a recent research report that was released in late 2020, if you can see the changes here, this was industry leaders talking about how much they think their firms will focus on ESG and sustainability. In 2018, 20% of people said they expected a significant increase in commitment of resources to ESG and sustainability. 2 years later, that is 55%. So you can see how dynamic this industry is. But remember always, the core foundation that you need to build is the technical skills. Here's another example of ESG demand. We looked at LinkedIn Talent Insights. So this is a global study. And we saw that in 1 million profiles, okay, under 1% of those profiles had sustainability skills. These are finance profiles. And the percentage of job postings seeking sustainability expertise was 6%. So there's nearly a 10-fold difference between supply and demand. And because ESG is new, one has to grow these skills in the industry. So you entering the industry, you need to get those technical skills. You need to have your eye on what other things you need to learn. And ESG is probably an area to focus on. Now, on this slide, what I want to show, these are different ESG methodologies applied by firms globally. And I just want to highlight this, this ESG area called ESG integration and best-in-class or positive screening. These are ESG methods, if you like, as part of those core investment practices. Both of those ESG methods require strong technical skills in order to work effectively. So again, although I'm touching on ESG and sustainability as a critical growth area in the industry and using it to illustrate how dynamic the industry is, its most important parts really rely on strong technical skills underlying. And so what this brings us to is I've wanted to leave you with this QR code, and you can scan it with your phone. It will take you to the CFA Institute's Competency Framework. So that framework looks like that. And what it has is it has the job roles, so those roles that I touched on at the beginning across the top, and then it looks at specific skill areas that are required by each of those core investment roles. So if you go to the investment analyst column here, you can look at the specific skills that you need for the global investment market as an investment analyst and start thinking about how you plan your learning and your training. Now, our recommendation, I'm going to close with saying that, and this is a quote from, again, from the Global Financial Times, among the countless financial degrees in the world, the Chartered Financial Analyst qualification has become the gold standard. So if you're serious about entering this industry and supporting the growth of Vietnam and Vietnam's capital markets, we want to say to you that the CFA Charter is the best way to undertake that journey. And the reason for that is that it deals, so the CFA program has 3 levels, and you can see at the center of every one of those levels is ethics. So ethics is your ability to act as a trustworthy professional. It is the key professional skill that Sir referred to earlier. This professional skill that makes you trustworthy with respect to other people's money. So you can see at level 1, you're going to deal with quantitative methods. So what data are you going to look at in your financial analysis? Income statements analysis, financial statement analysis, all forms part of those quantitative methods. Economics, financial reporting, generally, and analysis. And then the key issue of corporate finance. As you move into level 2, you will look at the different asset classes. And if you think about the development of Vietnam's capital markets that we touched on earlier, you can see several of those picked out there. Equity, fixed income, derivatives and alternatives coming later. And then moving on to level 3, portfolio management and wealth planning. You've seen that significant growth of investment accounts in Vietnam. there's going to be a significant demand in the private wealth space as well. I think the final part that I want to leave you with, before we move on to the next speaker, is to say, please consider the CFA program. It is the gold standard. A critical part is developing a network of professionals, and the CFA Institute offers you a network of 170,000 professionals globally working in 164 countries. We're going to hear from one of those investment professionals shortly. The CFA program and the CFA charter is recognized by regulatory bodies in over 60 countries, and more than 650 universities around the world use the CFA program as part of one of their degree programs, typically a master's in finance. So those, broadly speaking, we feel are the benefits for you as you enter the world of the financial professional and the investment analyst. I'm going to stop there. I'm mindful of the time. And thank you so much for having me and for hearing us out. We look forward to the continued growth and success of the Vietnamese capital markets, and we hope that many people on this call will play their part in that development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Xin trân trọng cảm ơn phần chia sẻ của ông Richard McGillivray về những tín hiệu đáng mừng cho ngành nghề phân tích đầu tư tài chính trên toàn cầu và trong thời gian tới.